The courtroom was silent in a way that felt unnatural. No whispers, no movement. Even the air seemed to stop. The judge looked down at the man, standing before him, a decorated police officer with 23 years of service. A man who had once sworn an oath to protect the law. And then the judge spoke a sentence no one in the room ever expected to hear. "Officer Daniel Hart, this court finds you guilty on all counts." A gasp rippled through the gallery. How did one of the most respected officers in the department end up here? What went wrong inside a system built on trust? And why did it take years for the truth to surface? To understand that, we have to go back to a time when no one was looking. For most of his career, Daniel Hart was everything a police department wanted. He was disciplined, calm under pressure, and highly effective. His arrest record was impressive. His conviction rate was among the highest in the city. Prosecutors trusted his reports without question. Hart lived a quiet life in a suburban neighborhood, just outside the city. Married, 2 children, weekend barbecues, morning jogs. To his neighbors, he was polite and distant. The kind of man who waved, smiled, and kept to himself. At work, younger officers admired him. Supervisors relied on him. When difficult cases arose, Hart was often assigned because he got results. That phrase would later become a warning sign no one noticed. Across the city, life moved on normally. People commuted to work. Children went to school. Crime happened, as it always does. And every time it did, Daniel Hart seemed to be there. First on scene, methodical, efficient. Too efficient. Years before the courtroom drama, before any investigation began, there were subtle signs. Small inconsistencies that didn't raise alarms, because no one was looking for them. Evidence logs that were always perfectly organized, sometimes too perfect. Witness statements that followed a familiar pattern. Cases that moved unusually fast from arrest to conviction. Defense attorneys occasionally questioned Hart's reports, but judges trusted his reputation. Prosecutors trusted his badge. The system trusted itself. Everything appeared normal. But then a junior data analyst noticed something strange. Her name was Emily Carter. Emily wasn't a detective. She didn't carry a badge or a weapon. She worked in the department's crime analytics unit, reviewing arrest data, timelines, and conviction outcomes to improve efficiency. Her job was numbers, and the numbers didn't make sense. She noticed that a disproportionate number of successful convictions involved the same officer. That alone wasn't suspicious until she looked closer. Evidence submission times were unusually consistent. Arrests often occurred just before critical deadlines. Witness cooperation rates were unusually high. It wasn't proof of wrongdoing, but it was unnatural. Emily flagged it internally as an anomaly. No accusation, just data. No one responded. Months passed. Emily kept working, but once she saw the pattern, she couldn't unsee it. She began reviewing older cases involving Hart. Carefully, quietly, she noticed repeated language structures in reports written years apart. Similar phrasing. Identical sequences of events. Human memory doesn't work that way. When she compared CCTV timestamps with written reports, some timelines didn't align perfectly. Not enough to scream fraud, but enough to whisper, something's off. Emily hesitated. Reporting a respected officer wasn't just risky. It could end her career. She wasn't accusing anyone. She didn't even fully understand what she was seeing. So she did the only thing she could. She documented everything. Meanwhile, Daniel Hart continued his work. But something had changed. Internal pressure had been building for years. Performance expectations, public scrutiny, media criticism of rising crime, promotions tied to results. At some point, and no one can pinpoint exactly when, Hart crossed a line. Not dramatically, not violently, quietly. He began justifying small adjustments, minor reinterpretations of evidence, slightly reshaping timelines to fit what he believed was the truth. At least, that's how he told himself. Once that door opened, it never fully closed. Each success reinforced the behavior. Each conviction validated the method. And the system rewarded him for it. What police realized much later was that corruption doesn't always look like greed or chaos. Sometimes, it looks like discipline taken too far. The incident that finally cracked the case involved a man named Marcus Reed. Marcus was arrested during a routine traffic stop that escalated into a drug possession charge. Hart was the arresting officer. The evidence seemed clear. The report was flawless. Marcus maintained his innocence. At first, no one listened, but a public defender noticed something odd. A time-stamp discrepancy between a traffic camera and the arrest. Report: minor, almost invisible. She requested additional records. That request collided with Emily Carter's growing archive of anomalies. Two unrelated people, in two different departments, asking the same quiet questions. That's when Internal Affairs took notice. The investigation was launched silently. No interviews, no suspensions, no leaks. Internal Affairs reviewed years of Hart's cases. They compared raw data against official reports. They reconstructed timelines using independent sources. The process took months. What they found was devastating. Evidence that appeared to be collected at one time was logged earlier. Witness statements recorded before witnesses were even identified. Digital files edited after submission deadlines. Nothing violent. Nothing dramatic. Just enough manipulation to change outcomes. Police realized they weren't dealing with a single mistake. They were dealing with a pattern. The turning point came when investigators re-examined one of Hart's oldest cases, a conviction that had been considered rock solid. Using modern forensic analysis, they found discrepancies that couldn't be explained by error. When confronted with the data, a former witness admitted they had been pressured, not threatened, but guided. Subtly. That's how it's done, they were told. This will help everyone. That testimony changed everything. What police found next shocked everyone. Hart was placed under covert surveillance. His access to certain systems was monitored. His reports were reviewed in real time. The discrepancies continued. Internal Affairs coordinated with prosecutors. Warrants were obtained, quietly, legally. When the arrest finally happened, there were no flashing lights. Hart was called in for a meeting. He walked into the building he had worked in for decades and walked out in handcuffs. The interrogation lasted hours. At first, Hart denied everything, calm, confident, professional. Then the evidence was presented. Not accusations, facts, timelines, logs, independent verification. The silence stretched. Eventually, his composure broke, not into rage, but exhaustion. He admitted to adjustments. He denied malicious intent. He insisted he believed he was helping justice. Psychologists later described it as moral drift, the gradual erosion of boundaries, justified by perceived good outcomes. But the law doesn't bend for intentions. The trial was public and explosive. Prosecutors laid out the case methodically. They didn't attack Hart's character. They attacked the evidence. Defense attorneys argued systemic pressure, flawed oversight, human error. But the court did not expect one thing. Emily Carter took the stand. Quiet, composed, precise. She explained the data, the patents, the months of documentation, the hesitation, the fear. Her testimony wasn't emotional, and that made it powerful. The judge listened carefully. So did the jury. After weeks of testimony, the verdict came. Guilty on multiple counts of evidence tampering and obstruction of justice. The sentence reflected the severity of the damage, not just to individual cases, but to public trust. Hart was sentenced to prison. No applause followed, only silence. The aftermath rippled outward. Convictions were reviewed, some overturned, others re-examined. Victims and defendants alike were affected. The department implemented sweeping reforms. Oversight increased. Analytics units gained authority. Whistleblower protections were strengthened. Emily Carter was offered promotions she declined. She returned to her desk. To the numbers. The public reaction was divided. Some felt betrayed. Others felt vindicated. But one truth remained undeniable. When the people who enforce the law break it, the damage cuts deeper than any single crime. Justice, when it finally arrived, didn't feel triumphant. It felt necessary, because the law doesn't exist to protect institutions. It exists to protect the truth, and no badge is heavy enough to hide it forever. In the end, the most dangerous corruption isn't loud or violent. It's the kind that convinces itself it's doing the right thing.